Dan Mullen being let go. I saw one question from O'Brien. Does Dan Mullen get fired? I don't know. I thought he was right after the South Carolina game. My emotions kind of changed throughout the week. If it were me, I would let go of Dan Mullen. You have to ask yourself this question. What are your expectations? Florida's expectations are to go contend for titles in the SEC. That means beating Georgia, competing with Georgia, and then competing with Alabama and Nick Saban. Does Dan Mullen look like that right now in year number 4? The answer is absolutely not. It as sad as it is to say, it looks like from the first 3 years that Dan Mullen has used a lot of McElwain's players, and now it's year 4. A lot of those players have left, and you're left with the guys that you've recruited. Because I mean, the only players that are left from McElwain's team are a few 5th, 6th year seniors. You know, Malik Davis, who came in 2017 as a freshman. Guys like that. There's very few of them on the roster. So I don't see how you keep Dan Mullen if you're Scott Strickland and you're the AD. But I think there's still. I still think it's a pretty good chance. What's the word I want to use? I still think it's pretty 50-50 if he gets fired or not. Again, I wouldn't do that. I would just let him go along with the entire staff. But you can't have performances like this if you're the University of Florida. Giving up 52 points to an FCS school that you, by the way, you pay them to come, and it's supposed to be a cupcake game before you play Missouri and then before you play Florida State. I don't see any way that Florida, unless something miraculously happens, they beat Missouri and then you play at home to Florida State, and my goodness, I don't know what that'll be like. Just speaking from a gambling perspective, if you look at all the Florida games, Florida was a 35-point favorite today. Last week, Florida was a 20-plus point favorite, lost both games. Florida went up to a 12-point favorite against LSU, lost that game. Kentucky, I think Florida was an 8-point favorite, and they lost that game by 8. So there's just things, there's reasons why you can't do that if you're at the University of Florida. And one thing is the offensive line. John Hevesy left. He got relieved of his duties, whatever you want to call it. He got fired Sunday. John Hevesy, not an elite recruiter, couldn't bring anybody in. And I saw an article today from Zach Goodall. Pretty much the vast majority of this offensive line is McElwain's guys. Think about that. Jim McElwain left in 2017. Mullen's in his 4th year. And, you have Ethan White who came recently. But most of the guys that are on Florida's offensive line were either recruited from Jim McElwain, were verbally committed to Florida under Jim McElwain, or they were already on the roster. And that's inexcusable. You can ask anybody, you can ask any coach. It doesn't matter how great of athletes you have on the outside or how great running backs you have. If you don't have time to throw, if you can't create holes, that's on the offensive line coach, and that all goes back to recruiting. Dan Mullen mentioned, I think it was Monday when he had his Monday presser like he usually does at 1:00. He mentioned why he let go of the 2 guys when Mullen previously said, "I'm not going to make any in coaching changes," and it was because the reason he said was the team looks worse than what it was beginning of the season. That's exactly right. Florida offensive line the first 4 games looked outstanding, running the ball at will, having 380 yards rushing on average in their first 4 games against South Florida, FAU, Alabama, and Kentucky. And then since then, it's been off and on. The Kentucky game was pitiful with 14 penalties. I think it was 8 false starts. The LSU game was good offensively, but it was kind of the defense that kind of put you in a bind and put you behind the 8 ball. And then AR came in behind. So we'll see what the coaching changes does, because and this is another thing I want to mention. I've heard this a lot talked about in radio. After the South Carolina game, I heard a lot of people say, well, if Dan Mullen is able to win the next three, or if Dan Mullen can go 2-1, it depends on who he loses to. If he loses to Missouri, if he loses to Florida State, that that can't be the reason why Dan Mullen and the staff stays or if he's fired. Your decision has to be made already after that South Carolina game if Dan Mullen stays or if he's let go. And I think Scott Strickland knows. I don't think anything that happens going before today, I don't think anything that happened in these last three games decided if Scott Strickland was going to keep or fire Dan Mullen. That's just my personal opinion. Scott Strickland doesn't seem like an emotional guy. He's very level-headed. Not being emotional means you always you wonder about everything. You're not pulling the trigger just off of one thing. For example, Florida didn't play well against Georgia, and then they obviously didn't play well against South Carolina. I don't think Scott Strickland making a decision like that and fire him, let him go. So I think Scott Strickland. I don't think the last couple of games are going to decide if Dan Mullen is fired or if he's let go. I think Scott Strickland's already made that decision, and then that decision will come out the Sunday on Thanksgiving weekend after Florida plays Florida State, regardless of win or loss for Florida.